So I've given every team in the National League £1 billion. Running through the division here, every team in the Vanarama National League currently has a finances status set to rich. That is because I've given them £1 billion. I'm intrigued to see what happens with all of these teams over a 20-year period. Will this level of money really transform all of these clubs' fortunes? Will one of them ultimately end up challenging for the Premier League title? Or, because it's the National League, will not many of these teams actually seek promotion season on season and just stay in the National League? Well, we are going to find out in today's video. If you like the FM23 experimental content, please do drop a like on the video down below to let me know that you guys are enjoying it and you want to see more of it. And also, whilst you're down there, do consider subscribing to the channel if you are new around there. So we will take a look at one of these teams before I simulate. Obviously, I will use a separate file for saving and simulating. So let's take control of Gatehead. They're predicted to finish 16th in the National League. Obviously, they do have that financial status set to rich. So if we go into the managerial style, I'm just going to add myself for the time being. You can see they've appointed me there. What a lovely kit that is. I actually quite like that. So then we go into things, and if we confirm through all of this and we go into their finances, you can see overall balance just over £1 billion, and we also have £1 billion worth of transfer budget as well. We've not altered the wage budget because I just thought let's just give them £1 million in the bank, £1 billion in the bank even, and see what they actually do with it. I'm hoping they spend it on facilities and the infrastructure and ultimately guiding themselves to promotion, and hopefully we can see a team challenge at the top end of English football. Now, if we go into the National League, these are the clubs that we're going to have to take an eye on. Aldershot, Altrincham, Barnet, Boreham Wood, Bromley, Chesterfield, Dagenham and Redbridge, Dorking, Eastleigh, Halifax Town, Gateshead obviously, Maidenhead United, Maidstone United, Notts County, Oldham Athletic, Scunthorpe, Solihull Motors, Sheffield, Southend, Torquay United, Wealdstone, Woking, Wrexham, it's an interesting one, Yeovil Town and York City. All of these guys all have £1 billion. So what is going to happen over a 20-year period? Let me know down in the comments which one of these clubs do you think is going to get on the best. Who do you think is going to be the highest placed team when we revisit things in 20 seasons time? Let's find out. So guys, we are 20 years into the future. It is the year 2042 in game, and this is England right here. Alex Smithies is in charge of the England national team. Now, if you watch my video where I swapped the two clubs, Manchester City and Wrexham, he was currently Wrexham manager, about to take over them in the Championship in that instance. What's happened this time around, 20 years into the future, with all the clubs being given £1 billion? So if we go into the Premier League, I wonder if anyone is going to be in here. At first glance, no, none of the clubs are in here. It looks like Manchester City have had a little bit of a stranglehold on things for the most recent time. Absolutely blitz in the league, and look at the state of things once the coefficient and stuff changes for the Champions League in a few years time. Manchester City the champions, Newcastle, Norwich, West Ham, Leicester City and Leeds United all qualifying for the Champions League. Arsenal, Liverpool and Chelsea in the Arsenal, Liverpool and Fulham in the Europa League, and Chelsea go into the Conference League as well. So none of the teams in the National League with £1 billion over 20 seasons were able to make it to the Premier League. Let's have a drop down the division and see if anyone is currently living life in the Championship. Okay, well, first and foremost, I can already see Maidenhead United are currently unfortunate enough to lose the most expensive game in world football, losing that playoff final to Southampton. If we expand things and take a look at the league table, okay, so Maidenhead are the first team that I've noticed. They are in the playoffs. Obviously, they did lose to Southampton in that playoff final, but they are the highest team that I have been able to see thus far. So let's have a look at Maidenhead United. As you can see, they've been bouncing around the National League. They were in the National League for quite a long period of time, it looks like, until 2036-37, where they've achieved back-to-back promotions all the way up into the Championship, where they were relegated down into League One, where they came back up and they ultimately finished in the playoffs in the Championship again. Those three promotions in a row is absolutely massive and speaks to the fact that they must have some pretty good infrastructure. So they've got good, great training facilities and state-of-the-art youth facilities. I feel like this is a team that are actually keeping things under wraps and doing quite well in terms of bringing the players in and setting up the right level of infrastructure. So very well done to Maidenhead United. They are the most successful despite being relegated out of the Championship, but 3 promotions in a row. Very, very impressive. Some other teams in here that I have clocked. York City are up here. That is a horrendous kit. I'm sorry, FM23, if you are watching this video. They've had a little bit more of an interesting time of it. They're promoted out of the National League eventually in 2032-33. Another promotion into Sky Bet League 2, up into League 1. And then they've sort of been bouncing around, and they now find themselves up into the Championship after finishing second in Sky Bet League 1 last year. Again, it looks like they've been relatively sustainable. If we have a look at their facilities, good training facilities, average youth facilities. So unfortunately, not as good as humanly possible, but they are searching for a site for a brand new stadium, interestingly enough, which is a nice touch, spending some cash on your stadium. If we go back into the Championship, I can also see Halifax Town. They're up here doing nice things. 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 is their manager now. I love when you simulate Football Manager and you get this far into the future and it's just all players as their as managers in the game. So they've been relatively successful. Got promoted earlier than a lot of these teams, 2027-2028, where they finished second in the National League, and they've been pretty consistent. Spent a large time in League 1, as you can see, and now find themselves and have been in the Championship for the last 3 seasons. If we go and have a look at their facilities, superb training facilities, great youth facilities. This is kind of much more what I was expecting, but they are still playing. Where is their stadium? It does the Shea at Halifax. I've been there. It's not great. It's not great. For a team with £1 billion, fair play to Halifax Town. We've also got Bromley up here as well. They find themselves in the Championship. So again, another club that have been successful during this experiment. I mean, who wouldn't be with £1 billion? They've won Sky Bet League 1 and stuff like that as well, and find themselves in the Championship. I did notice something interesting about Bromley, which if you look in the bottom left-hand corner here, they're currently under a transfer embargo due to a breach of financial regulations. So it looks like they've not necessarily adhered to all of the financial fair play sort of stuff, and find themselves in the Championship. And just because of that, I just want to have a look at their players. They have some players in the Championship on 65,000, 2 players on 65k, 1 on 52k, and then a mid-40s, and their lowest paid squad player is Kyle Mills on 775 quid a week, which is absolutely ridiculous. I'm looking at some of these, and then I did notice as well, Wrexham are here. They are in the Championship as well, or they were. They have now been relegated. They will be playing back in League 1 next season. If we go on the general tab, this looks like a nicer way to do it. They are obviously still rich in terms of their finances, but you can see progression in the National League a little bit slow, promoted out of League 2 directly up into the Championship, and they've been in the Championship the longest, it would appear, and they did finish in 3rd in the Championship, so they were almost a Premier League team, but they've not progressed enough in that Championship and find themselves relegated this season. So what season was that? 2035-36. Let's go have a look at that season. 35-36. So Wrexham finished in 3rd, and it looks like they were knocked out in the playoffs. Sheffield United getting promoted in the playoffs that time. So fair play, Wrexham, but unfortunately not your time this time around. If we drop down into League 1, there could be a couple more clubs in here absolutely nailed on. So in here we've got Oldham, who were there, Barnet, Woking, we've got Gateshead, of course, who we did look at the start. Boreham Wood are down here as well. Who else we got? And that is it, I believe. So some interesting clubs in here working their way up. Obviously Oldham have just been promoted out of the division and now will play in the Championship. That will be the highest that they have ever achieved in this game so far, which is pretty impressive for them. If we go and take a look at Barnet as well, looks like they've just sacked their manager, which is brilliant. I love seeing all these clubs just being so ruthless with their money. They've been pretty good in League 1, but did drop down into League 2, bouncing around, a little bit of a yo-yo club, but they are still doing relatively decent for a team that were in the National League. Woking as well, we'll take a look at them super quick. if we pop them on the general tab as well. Again, they sort of been flirting with relegation in the Championship and find themselves back in League One. Then we move on. Gatehead, who we did look at right at the start, if we pop them on the general one as well, their improvement has been steady. Got promoted out of the National League North, eventually got promoted out of the National League, sorry, in 2034-35, and then all the way up into Sky Bet League 2, and they're obviously now playing in League 1 with Mark Fotheringham as their manager. So despite having some of these horrendous wage budgets and stuff like that, not necessarily everybody is being reckless with it. Dropping down into League 2 now, and we've got Dorking in here, Maidstone United, Gloucester City, fair play for them, because they were not part of the £1 billion revolution. Torquay, Eastleigh were, and Solihull Moors. Unfortunately, Bradford City relegated out of the Football League here. Not necessarily great. And then we drop down finally into the National League to see if there are any teams in here that had the money at the start. Notts County are still here. Wealdstone are still here. Is there anyone else who is really jumping out at me that would have definitely been here and received the money? I'm just checking on my other screen. It doesn't necessarily look like it from the start. So interestingly enough, Notts County, we're going to have a look at them and see what on earth has happened to them. They've had an absolute nosedive. They got promoted out of the National League in 2026, got themselves all the way up to 6th in Sky Bet League 1, and then they've just absolutely plummeted all the way down. Ryan Sessegnon is now the manager at the helm of Notts County, hoping to pull them back. After that is an awful two relegations in 4 seasons. That's not good, is it? That is not good. We're just going to have a little look around the National League as well. Take a look at some of the transfers. Let's sort these by price and we'll start working our way back, because obviously 900k for a player in the National League is massive, ladies and gentlemen. So we will continue to go back until I see someone who has gone for over $1 million. £3.2 million. Altrincham are just chucking the money left, right and centre, and they're still in the National League. They're still in the National League. They made it up into League 2 once and then came straight back down. And they've been spending £3 million on players. Jonathan Douglas, he's awful. And then we've got Alex Cooper as well. Again, £1.8 million on him. He's okay. But for the National League and for that price, that is extortionate. And moving back, we've got another couple of £1.6 million here. This guy going to Billericay, who finds himself now at Charlton. And this guy, David Bannister, another new gen, 34 years of age now. Coming out of, whereas that Southend originally, again, not a fantastic player, but both of these guys going for over £1 million. We've got another £1 million player here, Kevin Douglas, again, not fantastic, not really blowing my mind away, but he is now playing at Huddersfield after a spell at my team, Bristol City. And then if we go along again, Henry Bassey, again, another guy for over £1 million. Not necessarily the best players you have ever seen. So some of these clubs actually aren't really afraid of spending some money in the National League, which is good. I'm glad some of them actually went and spent it. But Altrincham, man, look at you guys. You got £1 billion and you're still in the National League. I cannot believe it. That's all for today's video, guys. Let me know down in the comments if there's any other experiments that you would like to see, and if you enjoyed today's video, as I said at the start, please do consider dropping a like on today's video, subscribing to the channel if you are new around here. And I mentioned earlier an experiment where I swapped Manchester City and Wrexham around, so Man City in the National League. How do you think they'd get on? Well, you don't need to wait any further. Check out this video and that will tell you everything you need to know.